All right, let's jump right in. When you picture a brilliant scientist, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Probably a genius, right? Someone with all the answers. Well, today we're going to flip that idea on its head, using some incredible insights from scientist Martin Schwartz. He argues that the secret virtues for real discovery are, well, they're the complete opposite of what you'd expect. We're talking about stupidity, indifference, and character. So, this whole idea kicks off with a story. The author ran into an old friend from his PhD program. I mean, this woman was brilliant, went on to Harvard Law, became a huge deal as an environmental lawyer. And he asked her, "Why'd you quit science?" Her answer was stunningly simple. "Because it made me feel stupid." And this was a massive light bulb moment for the author. He thought, you know what? Science makes me feel stupid too, all the time. But the difference was, he didn't see it as a sign of failure. He realized it was a fundamental, even essential part of the process. In fact, he learned to actively chase that feeling. And that brings us to our first secret virtue, which I gotta say is a pretty wild concept: the importance of stupidity. This totally turns the tables on how we think about intelligence. The idea is that in science, it's not about what you already know. It's about what you're willing to admit you don't know. Just look at this contrast. It really nails the issue. In school, science is all about getting the right answer on the test. It's designed to make you feel smart. But real professional research, that's a total immersion in the unknown. It's about confronting your own ignorance day in and day out so you can discover something nobody has ever seen before. And he tells this amazing story to prove his point. As a grad student, he was completely stuck on a problem. So he goes to the smartest person he can think of, a Nobel Prize winner, Henry Taub, and asks for help. And what does this certified genius say? "I don't know." And boom, that was the moment everything clicked. If a Nobel laureate didn't know the answer, it meant that no one on the planet knew. That's literally what a research problem is. It wasn't some question in a textbook with an answer key in the back. It was completely uncharted territory, and it was his job to be the explorer. Now, that might sound terrifying, right? To realize your ignorance is just infinite? But the author argues it's the exact opposite. It's totally liberating. Once you accept that you don't know, you're free to just try things, to muddle through, to experiment, to be wrong. You're free from the pressure of having to know everything. And this is what he calls productive stupidity. Now, this isn't about being unintelligent. It's a skill. It's the art of being ignorant by choice, of deliberately putting yourself at the very edge of knowledge where you feel awkward and uncertain, because that's the only place new discoveries are made. Okay, so if embracing stupidity is the first step, what happens when you actually start getting some results? That brings us to our second virtue, the power of indifference. And no, this isn't about being a robot or not caring. It's about navigating that intense inner conflict between what you hope is true and what the data is actually telling you. I mean, just think about it for a second. You pour months, maybe even years, into a single project. Your career, your reputation, your own ego, it's all tied up in this one idea. You are desperate for it to be right. So how on earth do you stop that desire from twisting how you interpret your results? The truth is, early results are almost always messy and fragile. You see a little blip on a graph and you think, is this it? Is this the breakthrough? But it could just be random noise. And here's the real trap. The more you want it to be true, the more likely you are to fool yourself, and the harder it becomes to actually find the real truth. This is kind of how that internal tug of war usually goes. First, you get that amazing result you were hoping for. Yes! But then you try it again, and it doesn't work. And again, and it's inconsistent. The most important step, the one that separates good scientists from bad ones, is number 3, confronting your own bias. You have to learn to practice a kind of non-attachment to the outcome. Which brings us to this beautiful paradox, passionate disinterest. It doesn't mean you kill your passion. You need that passion to drive you. It means you acknowledge it, you see your ambition for what it is, and then you consciously set it aside so you can look at the data with clear eyes.
You let nature give you the answer, not your own hopes. It's a serious mental discipline.
So, if being a great scientist requires you to be productively stupid and passionately disinterested, well, it sounds like science is a lot more than just a technical job, right? And that leads us to our final virtue, the value of character. The core argument here is that doing science isn't just about discovering things about the world, it should also be a path to discovering things about yourself. And this is where the author offers a pretty sharp critique of how we train scientists today. The focus is so often on what he calls the mechanics of careerism. You know, how to write a grant, how to give a talk, how to publish a paper. We treat young scientists like a workforce to be managed, not as whole human beings on a journey of growth. You can see the difference really clearly here. Is a scientist just a member of the workforce focused on mastering outward-facing techniques? Or are they a whole person on an inward-facing journey, exploring their own inner world? The author argues we have to embrace the second view, because here's the thing, science is not done by emotionless robots. It's done by people, with all our fears, hopes, and even our sense of what's beautiful. That feeling a scientist gets that an idea is elegant or a theory is beautiful, that's often the truest guide they have, leading them to the most important questions. And the author gets really personal here. He admits he's not a patient person by nature. When he was a young scientist, he was so hungry for success, so greedy for answers, that he'd rush his experiments and make mistakes. He had to learn patience the hard way, by actively quieting that demanding voice inside his own head. Now that's a character lesson, not just a lab technique. Okay, let's put it all together now. We have productive stupidity, passionate disinterest, and the development of character. These aren't just little personality quirks. When you weave them together, they create a completely new model for what it means to be a scientist, a new model for discovery itself. So here they are, the 3 secret virtues. First, productive stupidity, actively embracing the unknown. Second, passionate disinterest, carefully balancing your ambition with cold, hard objectivity. And third, character development, understanding that science is a journey that should make you a better, more self-aware person. So why does all this matter? Well, because cultivating these virtues doesn't just produce skilled technicians. It produces scientists who are resilient when they fail, who are deeply creative in how they solve problems, and who are ultimately capable of making those profound, world-changing contributions we all hope for. And really, this is the big takeaway for every single one of us, whether you're a scientist or not. We all live in a culture that rewards certainty and people who have all the answers. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. Where in your own life, in your own work, can you find the courage to practice being productively stupid?